Welcome to the Judge Finn Show. When I first started this podcast, one of the things I said was that I wanted to tell the truth. I felt that the truth was growing very scarce in this country and that it was very dangerous to our democracy. So many things have transpired since that time that I want to talk about that today. I want to talk about the most recent takeover of Washington, D.C., commonly called Chocolate City because it had so many black people who lived there. Everyone knows Washington, D.C. is not a state. And yes, the federal government would have certain rights to come into that city if it were necessary. But to usurp the power of the people who run that city and just take it over, bring in National Guard, federal troops to control a city that did not ask for it, and some of the other behavior that we've seen from the President of the United States, it is very scary. And one of the reasons I'm talking about this is because we have the privilege of a democracy, but we have the responsibility to take care of it. And I think we've been very lacking in very many areas. I've looked at the takeover of LA. I've looked at every comment that this president makes about cities. He chooses cities that have black mayors. You have to pay attention to what a person says and some of what they don't say. And what he said has just been everything from ridiculous to downright racist. And then we have this idea that we have to control the armed forces and control everything. Leads me to believe that you're not planning on leaving when your term is up. And I'm one of the Americans here to say, America, we can't stand for that. It's just not the kind of country that was given to us, and lives were lost to preserve this democracy. From the time 1776, when this country was formed, people have given their lives for civil rights, for unions, for everything that a democracy has. And now to see it just slipping away like this, we have a packed Supreme Court, as far as I'm concerned. And then on top of that, you have a Congress, which just, I don't want to say what I really am thinking, but some of the things that let's just say that we have a Congress that just completely kisses this president's ass. Let's just tell the truth about it. How long is this going to go on? When are we going to stand up for what it is that has been so dear to us our entire lives? And I'm a person who's speaking from what I consider to be a second-class citizen state, because I am a black female, and black people have never had their full rights in this country. So let me just tell the truth about that. But what about women? I hear people saying things like, why don't you go back to the kitchen and just go have babies? And it's like we're winding backwards. I've never seen such idiocy in my life. I've told you I'm 75 years old this year. And in all the time that I came up in America, from the time we used to stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, and people were just so in love with America, mom and apple pie. But look what we've gone and done. Here's the problem with this. If you don't say something, if you don't do something, we're going to have a fascist country here in short order. It's so easy to let it slip away, people. It really is. We have children in this country, grandchildren, who are going to have to live under that system if we allow this to go on. I'm talking to the fourth estate now, our reporters. You've just given so much grace from 2016, the first run, till now, the second presidency. What is going on here? Why would we allow this to happen? I know we know our history, most of us, but evidently I'm wrong. When I sat on the bench, I had to listen to people try to convince me that what they were telling me was the truth. I've been listening to this stuff, as I said, back to 2016 about the election was stolen. That's a lie. And then when I saw this president come back into office, the first time there were some guardrails. People talked about, well, he's got guardrails. He's got these generals that aren't going to just go along with everything he says. They're gone. Congress. Well, the Congress, at that time he couldn't roll over them because it was so evenly divided and Democrats had a slight edge. He couldn't get away with that. Gone. And so we're living in a time now that is very dangerous to us because people, when you lie to them long enough, they don't know what to believe. And that's exactly the purpose of that. The lies, the deceit, the things that are not said. It looks to me that we have a couple of things going on here, that we have a president who's not planning on leaving office. Why else would you need D.C. covered? A president who thinks of no one but himself. Every single thing is about this man. I'm not a psychologist, but pretty narcissistic. It's just horrible. When is people going to step up and say no more? It's enough. If we want to keep our democracy, every right comes with responsibility, and your responsibility is to say something. We've got to have some kind of strength that we've got to find from somewhere, and some kind of courage to stand up and say no. No, this is not America. This is not the America we want. We want an America that is what we inherited. Democracy. 3 branches of government that are co-equal and that stand on their own. Everything I hear today is, I got to check with the president, and the president says he wants this, and the president wants that. Nobody's doing their job. It's taking over the Attorney General's office. They are not your personal lawyers. They belong to the people. Everything belongs to the people. And there's so much to this, I can't cover it all in this episode. But the one thing I really had to say today, if you see something, say something. And aren't you seeing it? So say something, do something. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your family and say, wait a minute, isn't this a little strange? Isn't this going a little far? And reporters, do your job. He named you the lamestream media for a reason. When people call you names in the political system or in any argument, it's because they don't want to talk about the truth. So it's better to call you names and make you look stupid so that people won't listen to you. But if you don't stand up and do your job, then fascism has won. We need to put a stop to this now. I want to go into a couple of things that bring me to the conclusions about truth that I come to. The first thing is from a spiritual perspective. I've said it before, I'll say it again. The truth is always present. You have the facts and you have the truth, and they're not the same exactly. In a courtroom, we look for facts to lead us to the truth. In the universe, truth is eternal. It's always there. And so, as far as I'm concerned, when I sit down to listen to someone who says they're telling me the truth, I'm feeling them first because I'm coming from a universal perspective. How does it feel to me? I have to just step off and do an aside for just a quick few seconds. We did not just suddenly appear on this earth out of nowhere. We were born into a world. Where did we come from? Where do we go back to? So I have my own theories. You came into this world to do something about this world. That's what makes you unique. When I teach my classes, I teach this all the time. What makes you unique is you're the only person who can do what you came to earth to do. And the reason I'm giving this little lecture in the middle of talking about how we're losing our democracy is because the only way to save it is to know who you are. The only reason you listen to people like this is because you don't know who you are. And the first thing a fascist does is he picks somebody who has a gripe. And he harps on it that somebody else is the cause. Hitler did it with the Jews. It was their fault. And now we have Trump doing it with immigrants and with black people and with anybody he thinks is marginalized, because he wants the rest of you to say, I don't care about that, and just shut up and let it happen. But here's the problem with that. They come for me today, tomorrow it's going to be you. Don't you get that? It's going to be you. So I need you to get in your skin, get back into your own soul, and be who you are, and get ready to do what you're going to have to do here, because it's coming. If you knew really where you were coming from, I couldn't lie to you. I couldn't make a fool of you. But when you don't know who you are, you know how parents teach their kids don't follow the crowd? Why do our parents teach us that? Because they know the day is going to come when someone's going to try to get you to do something stupid that could, at the worst, end your life, and at a minimum, get you in trouble, and everything in between. So your parents teach you to have a mind of your own. I'm telling you, you came to earth with that. And then we get locked off into our own cultures, which I call the box. And so we lock everybody else out because we feel safe inside our own group. Oh, do political types use that? Oh my God, I've seen it for so many elections, going all the way back to Nixon. And I remember when George Bush the first, when he ran against Dukakis, and there was a man, Willie Horton, and he got out of prison and did something horrible. I think he raped and killed a white female. And boy, that's all they needed. That's all they need, because they're going to appeal to people who already think black people are animals. Let's just face it. See, I'm not on here to sugarcoat stuff like they do in the news and some of these other places. I'm here to tell you exactly how I feel, because that's all I know how to do, is be me. And so when you do stuff like that, when you take an unfortunate incident and try to get people to paint a connection to the whole group, this is what politicians have been doing for years, and I've been watching it get worse and worse. I've talked about it to anybody who will listen, because I know that is not the way we need to go. The whole idea of us having the American dream has been so distorted. It's gone. They're looking for two classes. I'm sorry, rich and poor. There'll be nothing in between if people don't wake up. So there's so much to this. But the bottom line is, if you know who you are, no one can lie to you. Okay? They can't affect your behavior. I remember when I was going to law school, and I was just so excited about it. And I'm walking down the street in my hometown, and the guy says, wow, you're glowing. What's going on? I said, I just got accepted into law school. He said, oh. I looked at him, I said, what the hell is wrong with you? He said, you know, that's a tough. So what he really was saying to me, let's be clear, is that you don't have what it takes to go to law school. And I looked at him like he was a perfect idiot and said, I don't know who you got me confused with. You evidently have me mixed up with the help. I'm going to law school, and I'm going to graduate, and I'm going to be an attorney. I didn't know anything about being a judge. That wasn't even in my view, which, by the way, let me just insert this. The universe has more for you than you could ever imagine. I should have had the hint when they were calling me Judge Finn in law school. They really did. And I thought, they're crazy. I just always know what I want to say and how I want to stand up for myself and what I believe in, and that was taking charge. And so they just compared me to a judge. They didn't know they were prophets. I've talked to so many people from the first time President Trump came down the golden staircase All of that you got to see and think about the stuff too, the golden this and that, his name on everything. People ignore all that. I am trained to pay attention to everything. And I paid attention to that. I paid attention to his conversation is always about himself. If he were at your house for a dinner party and all he did was talk about himself and how great he was and what he's going to do and everything, you'd never invite him back to your house again. But we elected him twice. What the hell is wrong here? So I think what it is a lot of things for a lot of different people. There's no one answer. I have people, and I have a friend, I love her dearly. She's a real estate broker, and she says to me, oh, I made money under him. So you don't give a damn that he's trying to screw my life because you made money under him. So greed is one thing, because that's what you call that. Money's more important than other people. When I hear people say, well, he's a businessman. Don't be silly. Didn't you hear the fact that the man declared bankruptcy, I don't know how many times and whatever, because he really didn't know how to run a business is why that happened. No, you think it's because he was just using the system. We tell ourselves whatever we want to hear when we want to do something, if we're not careful. I've never treated myself that way, and I don't know why, but it's hard for me to lie to myself. It has always been hard for me to lie to myself. When I do wrong stuff, I say to myself, oh boy, you really shouldn't have done that. If I mistreat you in some way and I know that I'm wrong, I will find you and apologize. You'll hear in an episode I talk about letting someone out of jail because I felt I was wrong. I didn't say, oh, if I go up there and let him out, everybody's going to say, look at her, she doesn't know what she's doing, this, that, the other. No, I'm being a compassionate human being, and I'm tempering justice with mercy. I really went a little too far. I felt he didn't do enough for me to have put him there, so I went and corrected it. And you'll hear that on one episode or another. But I'm just telling you, we've got to do better than this for ourselves. We vote against our own best interests over and over and over again. Let me tell you something. Business can't run America. Come on. What is the job of a corporation? The job of a corporation is to make money for its shareholders. You're not a shareholder? You don't count. So I need for us to wake up and smell the coffee, man. Pay attention to what's going on in this country. It's not funny. It's not good. Something bad is going to happen. And of course, you know, in Shakespeare, he said, first thing we do, let's kill all the lawyers. The reason they want to kill all the lawyers is because the lawyers were the only ones who could really stop them. We're trained that way. We're trained to go to court, put in an argument, say this cannot happen, this is unconstitutional, that's unconstitutional, that's illegal. We know how to do that. We have people who, a friend of mine says to me, are willfully blind and willfully ignorant and tone deaf. What do we do about that? You keep talking. You keep pounding on the table. You go to your family. You go to your friends. You say, did you lose that job at civil service? Okay, he cleaned out people in federal service, I believe, basically because most of them are not white. Let me tell you why a lot of people of color are in civil service. And if you don't know your history, you wouldn't know. There's a time in America that we, and in some cases we still do, people of color had a hard time getting into corporations and climbing the corporate ladder. You understand, there are a lot of reasons. So where did they go? They went to civil service because you couldn't just because you didn't want them say no, go away. They had competitive tests. If you could compete and pass the test, you could be a civil servant. Okay? And so a lot of black people got into those jobs. Brown people got into those jobs. Immigrants got into those jobs. And so now what our good president is doing is he's aiming to throw them out. Unfortunately, he had to throw some of his own out. But once you clear those positions out, guess what's going to happen? A lot of those positions, I believe, will end up being non-competitive. He'll find a way to keep those people from getting back into those jobs. Because I told you once, I'll tell you again, it's not make America great again, it's make America white again. You want me to go back to the Gilded Age? And I love that show. I watch it intently. I watch it intently about the robber barons and in New York City. Have you ever seen it? You better watch it. It's an interesting show. I think you have to talk to them about what they learned about democracy. All of us went to school. At some point, they talked about the American system. If you're an immigrant, you had to take the test. They know more about America than those of us born in America because they have to study and really learn it. And those of us born in America, though, should know enough to know that we have a system of government where you don't get to be the ruler over people. It's a system where we vote on things. We come to a consensus on things. And that's what's being taken away from us. And I think you got to just kind of say, well, what about this when this happened? What's your reasoning to think that that was okay? Argument that I used to make if I had to argue in court, when as an attorney, I would say, this one thing taken alone, Judge, my opposition can say that doesn't matter. But how about when it's 2 things and 3 things and 4 things and 5 things and 6 things, and I've showed you 7 or 8? Something's wrong here. And it's your job to do something about it. They handed us the keys to the kingdom as a nation. We didn't all get equal treatment. I don't want to keep going over that, but I don't want to act like I've forgotten because I live it every day. But you don't want to harp on shit every day when you're trying to be happy and you're trying to live a life, and you don't want to just think about all the things that you know are not right. You just keep trying to do something about it. That's the way I run my life. I know a lot of things aren't right, but I just keep trying to do something about it every time I get a chance. That's what you do. Now, here's the other thing. Encourage people to use more than one source. We have a tendency to lean toward confirmation bias. And that is, we just want people to tell us what we already think and agree with it. We have a tendency to like to run in herds as human beings. We like to be around people who make us feel good. And what makes us feel good is when people agree with us. Well, I'm not going to agree with you when I know it's detrimental to your health and your liberty. You have people who've been put in these positions in federal government. He picked people who would do his bidding no matter what. You can't have a leader like that. It's all lining up to show you something. Our president is picking people who don't question, they just do what he says. Our president is picking picking a Congress. Yes, he picked them because if you go against him, you're going to be in a primary. So he can knock you out. Who does this stuff? Think about it. Not just the one thing, add it up. So now you're picking who goes to Congress, and they're all people who do exactly what you say. Now you're picking people to put in your cabinet who do everything you say. You love Putin, and you made promises when you came into office that said that you were going to take care of this. Nothing's happened. Every time deadlines come, you back down. So people started calling him Taco. Trump always chickens out. And I don't believe in name calling, but I see why that came about. I'm going to try to give him his respect as the President of the United States because he represents everybody. And look who we've put on the world stage to represent us. It's shameful. Listen to me. Listen to me. I know you're exhausted. I know that for some people, especially our younger citizens, they've never seen this before. That's why I feel I have to say something, because I have seen it before. I've read about it in history, and I keep telling you, there's nothing new under the sun except the history you don't know. We've seen this before. And this is what strong men do. This is what fascist people do. This is what Hitler did. This is what Franco did. This is what people did when they wanted to be a fascist leader. You take out the opposition. The first thing you do is take out the Fourth Estate, which he's just done a magnificent job of scaring the shit out of the goddamn press. They won't say a goddamn thing. It's crazy. And then the second thing you do is you begin to, anyone who comes up against you, you name them. You remember, I have said that you have to know who you are or the world will name you. Well, that's what dictators do. They name you. You're the enemy. You're an idiot. You're lame. You're an asshole country. Those are all the black countries. See, this is what he does. And we're just sitting around as if it's normal. It's got to stop. So my suggestion is you've got to keep talking. You've got to point it out every time this stuff happens. You got to say, so now that's not number 1 now, that's number 13. And you still believe this is okay? And you've got to do something yourself. You can't just look to convince other people. You've got to do something yourself. And everything doesn't have to be done where the whole world sees it. Sometimes you got to fly under the radar a little bit. You can quietly get together with people of like mind and begin to talk about what you can do. And leave people out of it who you know are just going to be disruptive and destructive. But get together and begin to talk about it. My friends and family, we're all talking about it like, whoa. I have some people who've come around and have said, you know what, in the beginning, I just couldn't believe it was true. But it's too much now. That's what you need. You need for people to be sick and tired of being sick and tired. And so you have to keep talking about it. You have to write a letter to your congressperson. Write a letter to the Supreme Court for that matter. They get lots of letters from people that say, what the hell did you do that decision that way for? They get these kinds of things. You've got to keep talking. You can't shut up. You can't close your eyes. You can't close your ears. You can't run away. Do you remember in your lifetime ever, even if it didn't happen to you, where there was a bully and someone who wanted to beat you up all the time? I had a friend, it was so funny, he said to me, this guy used to chase me home every day after school. Every day. He was a little bit older than me, like 5-6 years older than me. He said, and I would run every day. I'd come home running from this kid. He said, and one day he was chasing me home and I just said to myself, screw this, I'm tired of running. And he turned back on the bully and the bully turned around and started running from him. Bullies are about this big. They're about this big. I look at the way our president acts, and he's about this big. That's why he has to keep putting his own press out there. I'm the greatest. I'm wonderful. You need me. Only I can fix it. Who says that? Now you're God? Only I can fix it? I. If you want to date with a guy like that or a woman like that, you'd never take him out again. But we allow this in our lives, things that affect our groceries, our housing costs, our school for our children, how other countries perceive us, all of that. We put in the hand of a man, I don't even, like I said, I don't want to do any name calling, but it's just atrocious. I think it's the party. If you think about the Republican Party, Trump used to be a Democrat. He's now a Republican. And the Republican Party has just lost its soul as far as I'm concerned. To allow a person to run a whole party, isn't that the tail wagging the dog? Come on. They allow any and everything to go. It's like people have become cowards. They're afraid. They're afraid. The others that aren't afraid, then there must be something in it for them. Must be something in it for you. Because people just don't follow people who behave like this unless there's something in it for. We don't do much as humans unless there's something in it for us. Let's just tell the truth about that. We as human beings like to be gratified. I get that. But you don't seek gratification that is against your own best interest. I've heard a lot about the Democrats. The Democrats' problem to me is this. There's some truth. See, the truth is always present. I keep saying that. There's truth in the fact that the Democrats were their own worst enemy. We got so intellectual in the Democratic Party when ordinary people, mostly in the middle and the southern portions of this country, who weren't doing great, and they were ripe for the picking. They were ripe to come and say, see, your American dream is going down the drain. And if it wasn't for them, depending on who you hated, if you hated black people, then we were the enemy. If you hated immigrants, then they were the enemy. If you hated this one or that, you shouldn't hate anyone in my book. You should live and be well. And you should have a government that is for the people and by the people. And we don't have that anymore. You know, a lot of times when you talk to people about what you've done in the past, they start saying, that's old stuff, and you baby boomers and okay boomer. No, I don't even know what okay boomer means. Yeah, I'm okay. But I have no idea what that means. I think it takes all of us. It's going to take every single generation, and it's going to take the generations who know the difference. And half of America does. And a lot of them are people my age because we've seen it before. We've seen the games they play. We've seen how they do things. But this has gone way farther than I've ever seen in my life. It's dangerous. I'm telling you it's dangerous. And what's really dangerous, the most danger, is the lies. Because when you believe lies, a person can lead you anywhere. I've got to get that through to you. Basically, it means having more than one source. And even though they come from different points of view, they're giving you the same facts. So I may be a conservative, you may be a liberal, someone else may be a moderate, but we're all saying the same thing. And you can find that because the facts are the facts. But what they do is they obscure the facts. They change the facts. They leave out facts. And they just outright lie. You heard Giuliani say back some years ago, the truth is not the truth? Since when is the truth not the truth? That's the craziest thing I ever heard. I get what I got from that is I can tell you anything and make it sound like the truth. Yes, you can if I'm not listening. Yes, you can if I don't know who I am. But it just so happens I'm listening and I do know who I am and I do know what you do. I know what I've seen, and you're not going to ask me, am I going to believe you or my lying eyes? Because it's not my eyes that are lying. It's you. What you've got to do before the midterms, actually right now, you got to start right now and get some people who have some real middle of the road views, who are looking out for all of us, who are not just trying to be haters and run people out of the country or run people around the country. You have to get somebody who's going to go in there and who's going to stand up and say, this is not happening. It's got to happen in Congress. You're not going to do anything about the Supreme Court. He's already packed it with people who are extraordinarily conservative and who have shown a willingness to let him get away with bullshit. It's terrible. But there's always in life something I like to call the unseen hand. And I'll give you an example of that. Back during the days of Brown versus the Board of Education, back in 1953, I was only going to be 3 years old when that case came about. There was a Chief Judge Vinson. And Chief Judge Vinson, no T, was like a southern, like a Dixiecrat. And so now you got this case coming up, civil rights and separate but equal was getting ready to go down the drain. Basically in America you had what was called separate but equal. There was a case that came down in the late 1800s called Plessy versus Ferguson. He was fighting for his rights to be treated equally. When they came out with Plessy versus Ferguson, that basically just gave you a two-tiered school system. White kids had great schools, great buses, etc. Black kids had whatever they could get. We knew separate was never going to be equal. In the 1953 case, that was challenged. And if Vinson had been still sitting there as the Chief Justice, it would have been horrible. But he wasn't. He died. And the president, who at that time was Eisenhower, put the Chief Justice in a man by the name of Earl Warren, who was the governor of California and a liberal man. And he put him in because he owed him, because Warren had helped him out with the Japanese internment during World War II. So he owed him. So he put him in. See, this is that politics stuff. But this time it worked in our favor because Earl Warren led the court for many years that took us ahead and got many, many gains for people who were oppressed. And then the clock started getting turned back. If we're not careful, we'll just flip right on back to the black codes and Jim Crow. And this is where this man is heading. Everybody needs to stand up because today is me, tomorrow's you. We have to find a way to motivate first-time voters and every generation, because we don't talk to each other. We always seem to look for ways to separate ourselves instead of ways to come together. And it's just not in our best interest to be separated like we are and allowing the crazies to run it. Because you got people out here doing and saying all kinds of things. I've heard recently there's an all-white town now being planned in the Midwest. You know what my response is? Good luck. At least we know where you are. And we don't have to deal with it. I don't want to live around you. You'd never have to worry about me wanting to live around you. You're hateful. And I would say that to anybody who says, oh, I'm just going to go and put this over here for myself and you're not welcome to even come through here. That's going backwards. I don't know if it's sustainable to do that, to isolate yourself like that. I suppose if we came to something where there was a section of the country, and you have this around the world, where you have people sectioned off like that, go ask them how that's working. You know, the Kurds are over here and the Shiites are over here. And how's that work? It's a constant fight. You don't drive through this town. They used to have a saying, don't be around here after the sun goes down. They used to say that to black people in the South. Do you want to go back to that? Do you want to go back to a time when we wanted people to be our servants, to be on bending knee? Is that what you want? I can tell you I'm not going there. And that's why you hear me say, don't get me mixed up with the help. I'm not the help. You know, as a black woman, I know how some people are going to hear this. Angry black woman. I'm not angry at all. I'm adamant. There's a difference. We, as black women, have carried the vote. In many an election, we come out and we vote. And we vote our conscience. We have a unique spot in history because a lot of times we've had to go it alone for many different reasons, and that's the subject for another day. But this is not about anger. This is about necessity. Stop hating me long enough. Stop being mad at this one or that one long enough to see that they're using your anger, your dismissiveness, whatever you're doing, and they're not wanting other people wherever you don't want them, whatever your beef may be, they're using you. And I need you to really understand that. Let me just say this I've been talking about liars. and the truth, and how we can figure out when we're being told the truth. One of the things I've noticed about liars, the first thing that a liar likes to do, and I'm talking in a political sense, I'm not really talking, I learned it in court, a lot of it, but I've watched it my whole life. The first thing a liar really wants to do is throw you off guard so that you don't see the lie. So that may come in many different forms. One of the things that happens is they will tell you something that's going to get you upset, or that's going to stop you from being upset. In the political sense, it's things to get you upset, whereas in a courtroom, it might be something to smooth it over and say, well, it wasn't really that bad. So in a political sense, you have to watch it when people start telling you things about other people, that they're your problem. Typically, that's a lie. Typically, they're in the same boat you're in. And they're trying to get past these same people. But the people who want the power will tell you your problem is the guy down the street. And then they'll go down the street and tell the guy down the street, guess what? I'll let you figure that one out. You must pay attention when someone is trying to sell you something, as if it was an encyclopedia salesman that used to come around to your house. They used to come to your house and try to sell you encyclopedias for your kids. People bought them. Why? Because they wanted their kids to do better. So whatever the man told them, it's the best encyclopedia in the world. Puffery. They bought it. Just look at this. This has much more than any of the others. Well, here's the question. Have you seen any of the others? But just the fact that he said it's better than the others, you got to watch for that kind of stuff. Watch when they're putting everybody down when they come to you. Every other group, they ain't say anything about yours. But when they go to the other group, it's going to flip. You've got to pay attention. I can't impress upon you enough how you have to listen to what's being said. And here's really important when it comes to liars. What's not being said. I can take that back to the courtroom. People always come in and tell me, oh, Judge, I would have been here. You missed your court date. I sent a bench warrant out for you to make you come back for your appearance. You missed 2-3 appearances now. I'm not letting you go any farther. And you will come back to court and say, oh, but Judge, I got a good reason. What's your reason? I didn't get the paper. You didn't get the paper? We sent it 3 times and you didn't get it any of them. Whatever they think will give them an excuse, that's what a liar says. So when you're talking to political types and they're telling you, well, you were in Congress, you've been there 4 years, 8 years, 10 years, 30 years, what have you done? Wasn't me. If those guys across the aisle had cooperated, if they hadn't done this in your city, you wouldn't be in this shape. It's always somebody else's fault. Nobody takes responsibility, especially a liar. When I was in the courtroom, one of the telltale signs of a liar was very poor eye contact. Very poor eye contact and dodging what you actually ask. Now that's a big one. And politicians do it all the time. I ask you a question, you don't answer the question, you just completely dodge it. What does that tell you? You got to see things, everything is important. You don't answer the question at all, you just start pointing the finger somewhere else, like I said. So, Senator, are you ever going to stand up to this president? So, do you think every single thing he's doing is right? Well, let me tell you about these Democrats. Let me tell you why they aren't right. And let me tell you that we're going to handle them. And we're going to see. You haven't answered the question. So you repeat it. What I would say as a judge is, that's not what I asked you. I asked you, were you present on a certain day at a certain place? Well, Judge, you got to understand. No, I don't have to understand anything except you better answer this question. I've had enough. Answer the question. See, that's what we do in a courtroom, but Not with politicians. We let them slide. You try to get the person off of whatever is going to hurt you. And so what you watch for when you're looking for the truth is, what are they flinching on? What are they getting uptight about? Why do they keep trying to take me to someone else? They don't want to tell the truth. Deflect is straight out of the Republican playbook lately. And let me tell you something. I'm not enamored with either party. I want everybody to understand that. And because I had to run for judge, I had to pick a party. But in my case, I was in the last several years of my being on the bench, I was actually supported by both parties. I didn't even have an opponent. And I don't really, it's nice for me, it makes an easy run, but I don't advocate that in a democracy. I said to some people, why don't you come on and run? They said, yeah, right. Like I'm going to beat you. That shouldn't be the issue. The issue is you just want a person to know you're not the king or the queen. I never treated my position that way. And that's why I'm looking at this president who's acting like he's a king or he's a dictator. And everything is about him and what he wants. The Kennedy Center honors, I couldn't believe that when he took that over. And he says, I'm 98% responsible for who's coming to the Kennedy Center honors. Are you serious? So let me bring this home for you today with our kernel of truth. Your democracy is precious. But with every right comes a responsibility. You have a responsibility to see that your democracy is safe. And the way you see that your democracy is safe is you have to be particular about who you put in office and what you allow them to do. And you have to hold their feet to the fire and make sure you're being told the truth. But understand, you have to know who you are to receive the truth, and that you're not just receiving what you already think. Go out and get the real deal. So listen, everybody, a great way to do what I've been talking about, to get involved. First, please subscribe if you like the content. Comment. Let us know what you're thinking and share it with other people. Get that conversation going. Come see about me. I'll be here.